And joining us on the phone line is Professor Barry Hanyane, political analyst with the University of the Northwest. Dennis Bloem is a COPE spokesperson. Thabo Mlutle is ANC Youth League NEC member. General Bantu Lomisa is UDM president. Saki Duploy is a member of the mayoral committee in Tshwane. And Sfiso Mahlangu is ANN7 resident political analyst. Let's start with you, General Holomisa. Good evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Is it likely that the Speaker will postpone the motion of no confidence on the 18th of April?
This afternoon, the EFF, after we have requested them as well as the DA, have withdrawn or asked the Speaker to postpone the sitting on the 18th. So therefore, automatically, there will be no debate. Hello?
Sir, we're listening.
Yes. And then we will now follow the direction which has been issued by the Constitutional Court, and we hope that at least Balega will be returned back and be told that the rules in Parliament allows her to use her prerogatives. In this case, she should have, for instance, referred the matter to the Rules Committee, whips of the parties. We always sit around in Parliament and when there are problems. And Balega even sometimes call the leaders of various parties because we are stakeholders in that Parliament. So, but we will wait for her to respond. I wouldn't like to get into a substantive argument at this point in time because the matter is in court.
Yes, maybe you can just clarify your general, in terms of the vote, or rather the secret ballot, according to the National Assembly rules and the Constitution that provides only for when a president is elected, and even then with a contender challenging for that position.
Subject to correction, I think there is a precedent where the Speaker herself, the current Speaker, if I'm not mistaken, she was challenged by one member from the DA, and then we adopted a secret ballot. And there is nowhere in the rules of Parliament and the Constitution which says the Speaker should be elected through a secret ballot, but it was by arrangement of the leaders of the parties and the whips and Rules Committee.
But specifically to the motion of no confidence, what does the rule say? Because if we take the case of Agang in 2015, if memory serves, it was similar where the court had decided that there needs to be a separation of power between the judiciary and the executive, and that the Speaker of Parliament should not recuse herself where she was accused of being partial in her judgments or her ruling.
We have cited that case, but we are using a different angle this time around. In particular, where people like David Mabuza would go public and say the ANC MPs dare to vote against the president and so on. And yet, when they take an oath in Parliament, they say will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and so on and so on. If the incumbent who we use the secret vote to ascend to power is misbehaving, and then some of the ANC as well witness are saying, no, he is indeed misbehaving, why must we show hands now instead of using the same method of secret ballot? But that as it may, I fully understand the separation of power. But where we feel strongly that the matter is impact on our Constitution, we have a right to appeal to the Constitutional Court for a determination. This is what we have done, and we are going to await for the papers from Parliament and whoever wants to join. And then we are thankful that the Constitutional Court in the first instance, notwithstanding the ruling or the decision of the Court of the Cape Court on Agang issue, have said they think that there is a case to be argued here. Hence, they've given us an opportunity to come and present. We're thankful to them.
General, but just stay on the line. We do have guests in the studio, and we'll take Sfiso Mahlangu, a political analyst, in how the courts, or the overreach that we've been warned about in terms of the courts prescribing what the National Assembly does, and how untenable this particular situation is. The likelihood that the secret ballot, or in the vote of confidence, will be granted, in your view, based on the preamble of the previous case, what do you think?
Well, good evening, Cindy, and good evening to the viewers. It will be very interesting what the court will come out with, because that will set a very high precedence in this country if the court is above the National Assembly. If the judiciary is above the legislature and the legislature then becomes above the executive, then you don't have a state. I think it's important to lay down that there must be separation of powers. South Africa is a state, and a state means three things: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And no one can claim power over the other, and no one can claim superiority over the other. Of course, it is true that no one is above the law, but why do we elect people and then have a National Assembly, and then others can go to court and overthrow what the people have voted for? I think if the court, in my view, were to overrule the National Assembly's decision, it would suggest that the electorate right is null and void in this country. Because if you and I vote, and we vote for example A, the Freedom Front Plus, and they go into power, and the day that South Africa is tired of the Freedom Front Plus, you and I can simply go to the court, overthrow them. We have an election, we appoint others, we elect others, we return to court and overthrow them. What good is the National Assembly? So I think the court has a hefty decision at this point in time in asserting itself, yes, as a constitutional court of this country, but it cannot claim or attempt to be higher than the legislature or even higher than the executive. Because if the court were to claim that, then the legislature and the executive can in terms say, but we are the National Assembly here, we will not listen to the court. And I think that's going to make South Africa unlivable and ungovernable. I think this court should set a precedent to say, the people have voted. Until your 5-year term has ended, you will learn to respect your vote. And we appreciate separation of powers.
Yeah, but as material stakeholders, Mr. Dennis Bloem, co-spokesperson, that the laws could have been amended, or the assembly rules could have been amended, so that there's no ambiguity when it comes to a vote of no confidence to the president. We've seen many other such motions fail, and I suppose from the opposition, the hope is that with the secret ballot, the outcome will be different if you count in the so-called disgruntled ANC MPs. Mr. Bloem?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir. I'm saying that this is a prerogative of the National Assembly that could have amended the rules of the House to not be ambiguous when it comes to the vote of no confidence and the use of the secret ballot in that particular motion. Why hadn't been done before?
You know, in the first place, but let me greet the viewers and the fellow panelists, the general. In the first place, this was not necessary even to happen. We are asking the question, why are the ANC so scared of giving their members the freedom to vote whatever they want to vote? Why are they so scared? Now, we must run now to the Constitutional Court to force the ANC to. It's undemocratic that people must not have their right to exercise their right to vote for what they believe in. And I can tell you that many of those people, ANC members of parliament, wants to vote against Zuma. Makosi Khoza is just one example. It have started with Jackson Mthembu. There are many Makosi Khosas, there are many Jackson Mtembus in the benches of the ANC. But the ANC is scared. They are using intimidation tactics against their members. Why? It's not necessary to have all this money spent and going to court and force the speaker to. It's a democratic country. Everybody is having the right to exercise his or her democratic right.
Mr. Bloom,
that
let's
is what
get
we are saying
yes,
as the
let's get
Congress of
Thabo
the people.
Mlotle, ANC Youth League NEC member, to explain the party line that was so well articulated, that you will not vote against the president, you will vote in line with what the party has prescribed. Is it that the ANC is scared, as what Mr. Bloom is suggesting?
Yeah, thank you very much, Cindy, and good evening to the viewers.
Good evening.
Yes, let me clarify this issue that has been raised, that the ANC is scared to allow its members to go and participate democratically in the National Assembly. Firstly, in the ANC, and I believe all organizations, they've got their own procedure, how they approach matters and how they implement and advocate their agenda. Now, in the ANC, we have our own internal democracy, where members go and sit. They will go to the caucus before the National Assembly, before they go and debate the motion. Now, in that caucus, they will debate the motion and have a consensus. When they go to the National Assembly, they will be having a similar or a particular position that they must go and implement in the National Assembly. Therefore, this cloud that is being thrown, I don't know where it comes from. ANC members are very clear. They are not in parliament representing themselves. They are there on the ticket of the African National Congress. Therefore, they will do what the African National Congress says they must do in the best interest of the people of this country. Yeah,
let me invite Mr. Duploy, I beg your pardon, Saki Duploy, member of the Mayoral Committee in the city of Tshwane. Good evening to you, Goeienaand. And just looking at what's going on in Parliament now, General Holomisa saying that the Speaker of Parliament has the discretion to call for a secret ballot, and in their submission saying that this secret ballot is for the prescription of a leader that is being contested. In other words, if there is another challenger for the position of president, then that vote can be applied. Other than that, it does not allow for the president, or rather for a secret vote to be granted. Your view?
I think the idea of a secret vote is to allow everybody to vote according to their conscience. And I think this is an opportunity. I'm not aware and I'm not informed about all the legalities of having a secret vote or not in Parliament at this point in time. But I think it will allow all the members of Parliament to be in a position to vote according to what they believe is right. And I think therefore it should continue. They should get the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Professor Barry Hanyane, professor at the University of the Northwest, thank you for joining us. What does this mean for the ruling party having now to go to court, as it were, to defend a stance which, according to the Constitution and the rules of the National Assembly, on the surface, seems to bar the Speaker from calling a secret ballot in the no vote confidence, or rather confidence and no confidence vote to the president? What is your view?
Cindy, good evening to your viewers. Good evening to the panelists. Look, let us be clear about one thing: the rules of Parliament, together with the Constitution, does not actually bar the possibility of having a secret vote being used in Parliament. I think this issue could have been accommodated well, especially from the Speaker's side, by first getting some legal advice on the matter prior to pronouncement that this indeed is not allowed. if I were to advise the Speaker, this would be the direction to take, rather than outrightly coming out and basically shutting the door in the face of those who would advance the cause that indeed this is a more likable, more usable option to advance the whole principle of promoting the ballot, the secret ballot voting as such. And like the other speakers have alluded to, it would have saved time, it would have saved expenses by and large. But let's also be clear that legislature, in this case Parliament, it's not above the judiciary or the executive in this instance, but instead must give direction in as far as the interpretation of the law is concerned.
General Holomisa, so now you're expecting that the outcome, say the vote, or rather the secret ballot is granted, you expect the outcome to be different, considering, if history is anything to go by, the number of no confidence votes that had failed. How then will the secret vote assist in what the opposition desires? General Holomisa? Mr. Bloom, maybe you can take that. Just looking at history in the failed no vote or no confidence votes in the precedent and how those have failed, how is the secret ballot likely to change the outcome in your view?
Let them just allow the ANC members to exercise their democratic right. You will see another story. Those people are talking to us. They are our comrades. They are saying that they are being forced to vote the ANC line. I can tell you that if there is on the 18th, no, but it's now changed. If there is a secret ballot, we can say goodbye to Mr. Zuma. Mr. Zuma will not. You see, he is sitting there he is intimidating people. People will lose their jobs and whatever. And we understand that type of intimidation. But let them just try and give the ANC people that right. You will see another story. The next day, Mr. Zuma won't be, and the cabinet ministers, they won't be anymore there as president and as members of the executive. But they are scared because you can see people are coming out now. I have made an example of Dr. Makosi Khosa, of Jackson Mtembu, the chief whip. They are talking, and I'm saying it is not only them. They are out of that 249. I can tell you, give them the chance. They will vote against Mr. Zuma. Zuma will fly, but without any intimidation, Zuma will go. We are very much sure, and the ANC members are very much sure that he will go.
All right, Mr. Bloom seems to be very confident that the ANC MPs would vote differently, but we know that the call for unity and the year of OR Tambo and the ability of the ANC to close rank and make choices based on the interests of the party beyond their own personal differences has proven differently, Mr. Du Plooy. So are you also of the view that the secret ballot may yield a different outcome, and why?
I definitely think so, because there is the factor of intimidation and of ANC members feeling they have to go with the group. But I think this is such a serious stage in our history. If you compare it with the previous no confidence votes that didn't work, but I think now we've reached such a serious point in our history that, and I think the members of the ANC, those who are going to vote, members of parliament, are feeling that we are now going a way that is so dangerous to the country that they now have to speak out. And, well, they not speak out, but in a secret vote. But I think it's much more serious. You cannot just compare it with the previous rounds of votes of no confidence. I think it's such a important situation, and I think they start to realize it's not about us, or not about us as a party, but it's now about the people of South Africa. And for that reason, I think it will be different, and I think it should happen in secret.
I mean, the very members have the opportunity to either walk out of the party if they don't agree with a sitting president, but the ideologies and the principles of the party do not change, and what is expected of them, as in when we talk about organizational culture and what is expected of you as an employee, it's very difficult for you to now run a parallel organization or ideology just on the sidelines. So if you say it's victimization as opposed to, you can call it commitment, you can call it devotion, you can call it whatever it is to the party as opposed to intimidation. I mean, I don't know, besides Mr. Bloom saying they speak to their colleagues, how far true that is.
I think many members of the ANC has come to the point where it's not just a matter of ideology. After a change in leadership, they might still believe in the same ideology. But I think they start to see and they start to realize what is going on in the country, and that we are moving backward to such an extent that it's now not a time for just stay together as a group, but vote for what is best for the country and what they believe is the best.
Yeah. No, I don't know, and I mean, you know, the calls that we've heard from Dr. Makhosi Khoza and Jackson Mthembu, as Mr. Bloom had alluded to, there had been a lot of dissenting voices around President Jacob Zuma, but the call, which one supersedes the other? Is it the call from the top six to unite and not give in to the opposition's command or clarion call to fire your own sitting president? Which one will prevail in your view, Thabo?
The unity of the organization is very important. Two members of the ANC and the ANC itself. Now, I am surprised. The last time I checked, the spokesperson of the ANC was Comrade and still is Comrade Zizi. Now, people have now appointed themselves as spokespersons of members of the ANC, speaking on their behalf. We have never had those comrades coming into the meetings of the ANC and saying what they are saying. Now, each and every organization has got its culture, its principles, and how it drives its agenda. Now, it will not change today because people want to advance their regime change agenda, and they want to take advantage of the fact that members of the ANC have got different views. I have said, and I will repeat it, in the ANC we've got what we call internal democracy, where members of the ANC go and discuss. They go into their meeting with their different views, they go and debate, and ultimately arrive at a particular decision. And once that decision is taken, it is binding to all members, irrespective of what your view was prior to that particular discussion. Now, the same thing will happen. They will go to the caucus of the ANC before they go to the National Assembly to debate this motion of no confidence. And the ANC will have a position that all members of the ANC will go and implement that decision with the majority that we have in that national parliament. Now, let's go back to a series of events that had occurred. Remember, the UDM is now made an application to court, but chronologically, the DA was the first to make that application, followed by the EFF. Now, the Speaker of Parliament was in Bangladesh. She had to come back into the country to deal with that matter. On her way, when she arrived, she also consulted the leader of business, which is the deputy president of the country and the deputy president of the African National Congress, as well as the chief whip of the ANC, Comrade Jackson Mthembu, whom people have appointed themselves as the
as very briefly, sorry, Thabo, to rush you. Yeah, just very briefly, finish your thought.
Yes, the point I'm driving is that on the 18th, the National Assembly, I don't know where this thing comes from that they are saying there will be no sitting of Parliament on the 18th. Insofar as we know, insofar as we are aware, there are no changes What they've simply done, the UDM, is to apply for that secret ballot procedure. But now, for the court has only considered their application. It was not yet made a ruling. But for the court to arrive at the determination, it must have inputs from all stakeholders.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm really sorry, Thabo. Thabo Mlodle is an ANC Youth League NEC member. Thanks so much for joining us. Saki Duploy is a member of the mayoral committee in the city of Tshwane. Fiso Mahlango is an ANN7 resident political analyst, and Professor Barry Hanyane, political analyst with the Northwest University. Dennis Bloom, a COPE spokesperson, and we had General Bantu Olomisa, the UDM president. And thanks to you at home for joining us as well. We take a quick ad break. We'll see you shortly.